Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome to a brand spanking new episode of Rave, Diaries and Tower Block Tales with yours truly, Uncle Doug's in the motor. So, I will get back in the thing. I've got loads of stuff to show you. Like, once I do start doing them at home again, I've got loads of memorabilia and bits and bobs to show you guys on the camera with the stories that go with them. But for now, we're in the car. So anyway, love to everyone that's watched any of the previous or all of the previous episodes on this playlist. Thank you very much to all you commenters that get involved in the comments and share your stories of my video, your versions, your take. You might have been at the same rave or listened to the same station or whatever. Thank you very much. Love to you all, and to all new and old subscribers alike. Welcome back. So today's episode, I'm going to try, I'm not going to say this is like how dubstep started or whatever, but it's kind of like my journey in finding dubstep when it first sort of come around, and how I and we as a radio station, Rinse FM, were a part of that journey up to a certain point for me, more so for Rinse. But yeah, I just thought, like, dubstep is known now as this sort of music that exploded, and by the time it exploded, it was quite a noisier version of dubstep than what came before it. And then obviously it conquered the world, and then maybe it was a little bit of a victim of its own success for a while, but it's having a massive resurgence. And there is certain people in the game that have never ever you know, let it go. They've championed it throughout, much like some of us did with jungle when people didn't like jungle for a long time. Now they all love it. Dubsteppers had the same sort of thing going on for it. So yeah, we'll get to all that in a bit. But for now, dubstep. So before it was called dubstep, it didn't really have a name. I remember people calling it dark garage and stuff like that. But so we're going back to about what would be 2000 and, this is a guess, maybe 2003, 4 ish, round about then. Anyway, I was managing Rinse FM at that time, and of course I was around G and Slim and all the people that we was around, but it was me, G and Slim, that was doing the radio stuff. And Slimsy was the big don, pay as you go Slimsy. You know, he was working all over the place. They was massively high in demand. Things were popping. So when your DJ career's like that, in them times, not so much now, but in them times, you know, the distribution companies and the producers will be falling over themselves to get you the records to play on your radio and in the parties. So one of these distribution companies, was it called Essential? I'm saying Essential and I feel like it's wrong. Ammunition feels better. Anyway, there was a lady called Sarah at Ammunition. Now I'm questioning whether I've got it right or wrong. Anyway, a lady called Sarah owned and run this distribution company, and the guys used to go down there and get their tunes. They looked after like Bingo Beat, Zinc, and all the early temper stuff. What was to become dubstep, all of that stuff was coming through Sarah and the company. So there was a night called Forward that was running at Velvet Rooms, and I'd seen the flyer, because the flyer was quite a catchy flyer. It was just the FWD flyer with the 2 arrows, yeah. And I'd seen it about, but didn't know anyone on the flyer, and I paid no attention to it really, because why would I? You know, I mean, I was doing the grime thing at the time. That was really popular. I was on Rinse, running Rinse, sorry. So grime was our bread and butter. Why would we look the other way? Anyway, one Friday morning, Genius phones me up. He says to me, Doug's, I went to Sarah's night last night, and I think it was the first week they'd moved to Plastic People, I think, if I remember correctly, which was to be the home of Forward and Dubstep, I guess, for a long time. Anyway, he says to me, I've gone to this night. He was like, to be honest with you, Doug, there was hardly anyone there, and I'm not really sure what the music was, but his words were, he said, when you tell me about the old days, Doug, and how everyone was there for the music and it was this feeling of togetherness, and even though there weren't many people there and I didn't really understand it, I felt like I was in something like what you would have told me it was like when you went to like a small little event back in the early 90s. So I was like, okay, all right. Well, what music is it? And he was sort of trying to describe it to me. So anyway, the following Thursday, we go down to Plastic People. And the DJs of that time would have been, I mean, forgive me if I forget anyone or I get any of this wrong, because I'm going from a very patchy memory of this era here, but it was people like Benny Hill, not Benny L, Benny Ill, ILL, Horsepower, Slaughter Mob, who else would have been down there then? Code 9. I think maybe Hatch would have been there then. Maybe Youngster as well, being he was Sarah's brother. I think Dan would have been playing there. Yeah, there was a few, but it was a small clique, not a clique as in a bag. It was a small pool of DJs, and then you had Crazy D on the mic. That was it. Crazy, whoa, Crazy D on the mic for the whole night, just hosting, right? So we go there on this first Thursday that I went. G had been the week before, and I think it probably would have been me, G, Slimsy, little Gary, probably Wonder would have been with us at that time as well. Maybe Troy, A+. There would have been a crowd of us, maybe Sterling as well at that time, and we'd have gone down there. After a couple of weeks, all the radio lot started coming, and it started to become the forward that it become, and Rince's involvement with it sort of transpired from this night here. But anyway, we go down now. And much like what G said, there wasn't that many people there. Plastic People was perfect. It was a dark basement club in Shoreditch with potentially the best sound system of all time. I mean, that's a big call, Doug's. Probably going to ignite loads of arguments there. But my point, what I mean is, for the moment and for the space, for the music and for the vibe, everything about it was perfect. Honestly, just the club was perfect for what was just about to happen. So yeah, the first week we're down there, listening to these DJs. We was like, the club was basically in two halves. At the back half was a bar and a couple of tables and a bit of space. And then you had like a kind of bit where you could walk in that way and walk in that way, but there was a wall in the middle. So it wasn't in and out, but you could get in both sides. And the speakers were at the back facing forward. And obviously you had forward speakers facing backwards. So when he was in the middle, in the belly of the beast, it was intense in there, brother. It was dark and it was fucking loud and it was bassy. But we'd sort of chill at the back. That become our area. We'd sit around the table. You could have a little puff in there and all that. That become our little fucking spot at the back there. And as time grew, our numbers grew. We took over more and more of that bar area. But yeah, so we come away from that first night, and I remember talking to the others about it and saying, yeah, do you know what? I don't really get it, but I really like it. Like at that time as well, grime was very hostile. There was a lot of clashing going on, and being the manager at Rinse at the time, I was dealing with a lot of it. Not just me, like us, but a lot of it was my watch, you know what I mean? That was my job. So I was having to deal with a lot of these fucking people arguing about nothing and threatening each other, and crews waiting outside the studio because they want to beat someone up or they want to clash someone, or you walk in there, this geezer's meant to be in there on his own, you've got 50 of his mates in there because they all want to go on the mic, and all that stuff was that era there. It was probably the peak of that era there, in fact. So we went a couple of times, and then obviously me and G, especially through that period, we was together every minute of every day, doing the radio stuff. So we would talk religiously and relentlessly about everything to do with the radio. Sorry guys, someone pulled up there. I thought they were going to talk to me about the radio. So we've been forward now a couple of times. He's been maybe 3 or 4 times. I've been 2 or 3 times at this point. And we're like, it weren't like we were getting the music, but we was like, the music was good. Like, it was like dubby. It was so much darker, not darker as in like dark. It was dubby, and it was a bit moody, and it was slow. It was like reggae with a little bit more oomph, or jungle with a little bit less speed. I don't know. It was somewhere in the middle was this thing, and none of us could quite put our finger on it, but we all sort of felt that it was something different, and it was something unique at that time. It was away from grime. It was away from garage, albeit a similar tempo. And I guess it was spawned more so from garage crossbreeding with dub than anything. It didn't sound like any of them. It had its own identity from the very, very early days and start. And I think that was what caught us. Also, it was the fact that it was a very friendly atmosphere. And the people that, I say it was empty. Sometimes you'd have a few people in there. It took a while for it to get to the point where it become busy all the time. But you'd have sometimes when it was busier than others. Sometimes it'd be rubbish. Sometimes it'd be good numbers. But not rubbish the night, rubbish in numbers. But the people that were coming now, they were in it. You know what I mean? They were in it. They was in the music. They was studying the DJs. They were studying the production. They were nerds almost, but nerds that let off, dance on the dance floor and that. But They knew their shit, you know what I mean? When you talk to these people that were getting down to them early forwards, they knew what they were talking about, and they kind of knew what they wanted from this sound. And that's why they were going there, because they knew these guys that were playing were giving them this new sound. So we've decided that in the meantime, we've had a little chinwag about it, and we've decided that we're gonna we spoke to Sarah, and we're gonna get some dubstep on Rinse. And it was a massive step at the time, because by doing that we had to sack a load of grime artists, and we did, and it didn't go down well at all. I used to have the phone line in my 07940 That was the Rinse phone line and info line. So I'd carry it with me all the time. And through this period, we got bare complaints from listeners, because basically we sacked about probably 8 of the grime acts that we had on there, or crews or whatever, DJs, and we brought on 8 of these people, Code 9 and all the ones I mentioned earlier. A lot of them were the first wave. I'm trying to think who was the first wave. It would have been Hatcher, Youngster. Code 9 did the forward show on a Thursday night. Can't remember. This is before the Screams and all of these sort of people come along. This is early doors, yeah. And through Code 9's show, the idea was on a Thursday night. I think he did 7 till 9 on a Thursday, if I remember correctly. He would introduce people that are making this music and other DJs and stuff like that, because they had their finger on the pulse more than we did. So through that show, he could incorporate the up and coming talent, as well as playing established music. And, you know, it was a bit like an information stroke knowledge show alongside the music. So yeah, we got loads of stick, loads and loads and loads of stick from everyone. What is this shit music? Especially for Code 9. I mean, he's Scottish. He's got a very strong Scottish accent. I'm pretty sure he comes from Glasgow. Don't ever go at me, mate, if I got that wrong. But he's got a strong Scottish accent anyway. So we've got rid of a grime crew on a Thursday night, and put him in there, and all of a sudden he's on there like giving it the Jock McTavish, and he, do you know what I mean, talking on the mic, no one can understand him. He's bringing up people no one's heard of, playing music no one cares about, because at that time no one cared about that music. You got to think the only platform it really had was forward on a Thursday night with a handful of people that got down there. So once it got onto Rinse, it then gave it a platform, and you know, Rinse had a big listenership at this period because of all the grime stuff, the Dizzy Rascals and all of that stuff that had happened at that time. This was the peak of listenership for that moment, and then we've just sacked off loads of people. They all went over to sort of Deja Vu and them sort of stations where they could all go and clash each other and go mental on the roof. And we sort of chilled it down. We kept what we felt was the best of the crews, and we introduced this new music, which at the time I don't think even then was still called dubstep. Maybe it was, but I'm sure that name got coined a little bit further down the line. But anyway, we got this new fucking music on the station, and yeah, it didn't go down well. So over the course of the next sort of 6 months to a year, gradually the sound started to become popular, and we started to get more people on the station. People like Casper, who back then was called Quiet Storm, Plastician, who back then was called Plastic Man, Sheffel, who back then was called Chef, like they had to change their names, Distance. There was a load of them. I mean, N-Type, there was loads of them, and then all of them lot brought their mates up. There was a lot of the Croydon lot, where dubstep was, I guess, the home of dubstep was Croydon and South London. So once a few of them got on, they'd bring up their mates, and gradually the sounds grew, the crew grew, and the audience grew, both as listeners. We weren't getting as much flack. People started to understand it, which meant they would go to Forward on a Thursday, because that was the only place you could get the music and see the DJs. And gradually it started to become a thing, and dubstep, the name by then had definitely come around, and dubstep become a thing. And by a year in, maybe, Forward was packed every week. There was other offshoot things. I mean, you had like the Digital Mystics guys, Loafer and them sort of guys. They was doing the Digital Mystic stuff, which ended up being over at the Mass in Brixton, because they wanted to do their own thing, and Forward was its own thing. So even though it was a bit of healthy competition at the time, it was great for that scene, because Forward gave you the Thursday night flavour, and Digital Mystics doing their big sound system vibe thing over at the Mass in Brixton gave you a different sort of version of the same music. So they had their own sound and their own vibe, and Forward had theirs. So yeah, the sound grew, the names grew within it, your Hatchers and your Crazy D's, and all the other guys started to get more and more work as dubstep grew. And then, you know, Scream and them sort of guys, I mean, Scream and that sort of third wave of dubstep people that come onto Rinse, I guess. They were like mateys and kids and stuff like that were coming down to Forward, and then going home and trying to make that music. There was the next wave of the new breed, and Benga and Scream and them sort of people they was around all them South London lot. You know, I know Ollie from he was a teenager, a kid, but yeah, he and the next lot were the ones that really took it onto that next level. And then, you know, Midnight Request Line and all of them kind of things, and Casper's Where's My Money remix, I guess, and stuff like that. The Where's My Money, sorry, that they were the things that the tunes that really elevated it to like a worldwide thing. And then obviously we all know the story from there. It went worldwide. It was huge, and maybe a victim of its own success a little bit, because like I said at the very start of the video, it was so popular, but I guess where it had such a huge rise so quick, it didn't really have the foundation that Rave Jungle and all of that had when it went through its hard times, Jungle. So people were quick to jump ship a little bit and mock it a little bit, I guess, and how dubstep, well, you still listen to dubstep? I used to get that with Jungle. Now everyone listens to Jungle again, and they're all, oh yeah, I'm a junglist. Yeah, I remember when you wasn't a junglist. You used to point your finger and laugh at people like me. And it's almost the same with dubstep. So I've got to big up people like Casper. I said at the start, there was people that, and there is people, sorry, that have carried on championing it. You know, they've had the highest of high times, and they've sort of carried on small events across the country, still touring the world, still giving the dubstep sound to the world, albeit a kind of scale or step down from what it once was, but it's now rising again. Do you know what I mean? Because inevitably a good sound is a good sound, and people that care, they just keep plugging away. They get their second go at it, and the mistakes they made first time, they don't make the second time. So yeah, big up all the dubstep crew. It's not something that I'm really associated with, and it's not something that I know massively loads about. But when it kind of kicked off, I was right in the eye of the storm around all of them people. I give a lot of them people their first shows, people that again become household names within that dubstep scene. I played a part in their careers early on, and I still get on and talk to all of them lot now. I've got nothing but love for them. I feel like a proud dad when I see all them lot doing their thing, you know, around the world, both in the world of grime and dubstep. You know, I've got loads of friends that are the big superstars of today, and I remember when they couldn't afford a Mackie D's. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, shout to the Forward crew especially. Shout to all of the dubstep crew. You know, ended up being a massive thing to do with Rinse's popularity and success. Obviously Rinse went on to do a lot of their own dubstep events, and Forward became a part of Rinse, and even though it's not now, the partnership that they had helped to shape the musical landscape of the country at that time. So it was mad important. So yeah, if you was around it and about it, then big up you. And if you was just sort of like on the outskirts, or you're just catching up on the stories and the history now, then yeah, dubstep is a scene worth looking into. It's an interesting scene because it literally felt like it come out of nowhere and was the biggest thing in the world for a minute, and then it kind of vanished almost. So it's even interesting in the way when you can look into something being maybe the victim of its own success, and our foundations and longevity can help you to weather the storm a little bit more. But yeah, anyway, listen, it is on the fucking rise, and it's still very popular around the world. And big up all the dubstep crew. I'll be back on the next episode. We'll see you then. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching. Love, love, love. Rave Diaries and Tower Block Tales. We are out of here.